Wrestle Machine back with another data transfer. Like, comment, subscribe. It's Vader times. January 10, 1994 Observer Newsletter, Starrcade 93 Fallout, New Japan Dome Show, catching up on news by Observer staff. Wrestling Observer Newsletter. P.O. Box 1228, Campbell, California 950091228 January 10, 1994. Starrcade 93 Final Poll Results. Thumbs up 230 votes, 66.7%. Thumbs down 76 votes, 22.0%. In the middle 39 votes, 11.3%. Best Match Poll. Ric Flair vs. Vader 327 votes. No other match received more than 1 vote. Worst Match Poll. Shockmaster vs. King Kong 164 votes. Sting and Hawk vs. Nasty Boys 62 votes. Based on phone calls, letters and fax messages to the Observer as of Tuesday, 1/4. Margin of error, plus/minus 2.5% among Observer readers and plus/minus 10.0% among wrestling fans at large based on what you would be taught in statistics class based on size of sample, but we still say plus/minus 100% because who believes what they are taught in statistics class? Based on reports thus far, it appears Starrcade did an 0.55 buy rate, which would mean about a $1.35 million WCW/ the gross from the show. This was roughly double the number of buys and revenue of the previous Battle Bowl pay-per-view, although well below the WWF Survivor Series, in which there were many who believed this show's buys would approach, which would make the first time a WCW show was in the ballpark on pay-per-view of a WWF show during the same time period. It's either the best or second best WCW pay-per-view showing of the year, although given the nature of the build-up, that may be more of an aberration than a sign that fortunes have turned around. Overall, WCW's attempt to run 4 pay-per-view shows in a 4-month period at the end of the year has to be considered mildly successful. 3 of the 4 shows were in the same 0.5 range that the less frequent early year pay-per-view shows were, which seems to be the WCW core audience. Battle Bowl was a disaster, but that was more because of the nature of the show. No matches announced ahead of time, so it's a hard sell, and the proximity with Survivor Series rather than showing that the concept of monthly PPVs is a loser. That analysis throws out the factor that this Starrcade was far better promoted than any WCW pay-per-view in recent memory, and still only drew about 15,000 to 20,000 more buys than poorly promoted shows earlier in the year. As has been said many times in the past, even with a strong main event, this card was also saddled with a terrible undercard. From a live standpoint, the $65,000 gross at Charlotte's Independence Arena was accurate, but with the place loaded with $8 tickets, the number of paid was close to 7,000 and there were more than 8,000 total in the building, which was 300 tickets shy of a sellout. The sellout would have been easy if they had flooded the city with freebies as they've done in the past year for all the clashes and PPVs, but it was decided this show didn't need heavy papering. WCW's next major show will be the 127 Clash of Champions from Baton Rouge, Louisiana. This will be in prime time on a Thursday night, which means it'll go head-to-head with NBC's popular sitcoms everywhere but on the West Coast. It's one of the weaker lineups on paper, headlining with Vader and Rick Rude vs. Ric Flair and Sting, Nasty Boys defending the WCW Tag Title against Cactus Jack and Max Payne, Brian Pillman vs. Colonel Rob Parker, Steve Regal vs. Dustin Rhodes for the WCW TV title, Marcus Bagwell and Too Cold Scorpio vs. Paul Orndorff and Paul Roma, Ron Simmons vs. Ice Train and Johnny B. Bad vs. Shanghai Pierce in a hair vs. mask match. I think it's a mistake to put Flair and Vader together again on a major show until the pay-per-view rematch unless the idea is to have Vader pin Flair to set up the title match, because it dilutes the issue. But major emphasis is placed on drawing Clash ratings, and with that undercard, they probably couldn't afford not to have a Flair-Vader confrontation if they wanted anyone to watch the show. The Super Brawl pay-per-view show on February 20th from Albany, Georgia on paper looks to be another show that will have to be sold on the basis of one match, because this undercard is even worse than Starrcade. The headliner will be Flair vs. Vader for the title in the Thunder Cage match, with the added stipulation that the Super Shockmaster, Fred Ottman, once again, CWCW section, will be the special referee. The second cage match is Sting and Brian Pillman and Dustin Rhodes vs. Steve Austin and Paul Orndorff and Rick Rude. After that comes Steve Regal vs. Arnold Anderson for the TV title. The tag title return with Payne and Jack vs. Nasty Boys, Johnny B. Bad vs. Michael Hayes, and the huge grudge match, Jungle Jim Steele, who was described to me as a neon sign, which seems to be the new term for neon signs, versus The Equalizer, Harlem Heat vs Thunder and Lightning, and Diamond Dallas Page vs Terry Taylor. Speaking of WCW, Jesse Ventura signed a new one-year contract extension through March of 1995, so he'll be continuing on the announcing team. Ventura claimed on the WCW 900 line that the reason he's taken to a new style of dress, suit and tie, and will have a new style of commentary which he claimed he started at Starrcade, and wouldn't you know it, nobody noticed, of being more serious, is because he's planning on running for U.S. Senate. Although there are numerous rumors in regards to Bobby Heenan's role when he comes in, most of the talk inside the promotion is the role will be as an announcer. The 6th annual New Japan Spectacular at the Tokyo Dome on January 4, billed as Battlefield 94, hardly qualified under the word spectacular. What was easily the weakest lineup for a New Japan Dome show ever resulted in a marathon lackluster show, which began at 3 p.m. and ended at 9 p.m. Most of the talk both before and after the show centered around the Antonio Inoki vs Kenichiro Tenryu match, which matched up two of the veteran all-time legends in Japan for the first time. The question of who was going to go down gained a lot of interest, since one would think Tenryu should win for the good of the promotion since he's going to be used as a headliner on big shows for the rest of the year, while Inoki is the all-time superstar and theoretically wouldn't want to put Tenryu over. Well, the good of the promotion won out this time. However, an ominous note was the failure of the show to sell out, the first time this has been the case for a New Japan Dome show since the first one in 1989. The crowd was announced at 62,000, although from our reports that is a slightly inflated figure as the outfield section was empty, although there were more than 50,000 there. From virtually all reports, the highlights of the show were the Inoki Tenryu and Steiners vs Hayes and Muto matches. Results were, 1. Michioshi Ohara and Kunyaki Kobayashi and Great Kabuki and Shiro Koshinaka and Kengo Kimura beat Manabu Nakanishi and Yuji Nagata and Satoshi Kojima and El Samurai and Osamu Kido in 12:09 when Ohara pinned Nagata in a decent opener. 2. Takayuki Iizuka and Akira Nagami beat Masashi Aoyagi and Akitoshi Saito in 14:07 when Nagami pinned Saito with a German suplex. This was said to be a good match. 3. Brutus Beefcake, managed by Jimmy Hart, pinned Black Cat in 8:06 with a jumping knee to the chin. This match was said to be horrible, far and away the worst match on the show. 4. Super Strong Machine pinned Tatsutoshi Goto in 8:51 after a lariat in a blah match for such a grudge. 5. Jushin Liger pinned Tiger Mask in a non-title match in 14:26 using the Shooting Star Press. After the match, Tiger Mask removed his mask, revealing Koji Kanemoto to the surprise of nobody, and issued a challenge for a rematch. This match was said to have been good, but disappointing because Tiger Mask isn't in the league with Liger. 6. In the only title change of the show, Hawk and Power Warrior regained the IWGP Tag titles from the Jurassic Powers, Scott Norton and Hercules, in 12:47. The finish saw the Razors do the double impact, the Old Road Warriors finish where Power had Hercules on his shoulders and Hawk came off the top with the clothesline, and then Power pinned Hercules with a reverse Ipponze, a judo throw that is really a super fast hip lock with the guy coming off the ropes. This was said to have been the second worst match on the show. 7. Rick and Scott Steiner beat Hiroshi Hayes and Keiji Muto in 20:51. This was pretty well said to have been either the best or second best match on the show. There was a big crowd pop when Scott debuted his suplex dropped into a piledriver move in Japan on Hayes. Hayes sold it huge but wasn't pinned by it, and kept trying comebacks but never really came back from it. Finally Rick got Hayes on his shoulders and Scott was on the top rope and DDT'd Hayes. Then Scott got Hayes on his shoulders and Rick came off the top with a bulldog for the pin. After the match the Steiners in the post-match press conference challenged the Hellraisers for the tag team titles. 8. Hulk Hogan, with Jimmy Hart, pinned Tatsumi Fujinami in 13:33 after an axe bomber, lariat. As usual with Hogan in Japan, he tried to demonstrate his wrestling skill doing drop toe holds and rides. Fujinami's performance was described as just being there to let Hogan do his thing rather than wrestling up to his own legendary status and trying to work an even, competitive, exciting match, but it was said to be okay. 9. Riki Choshu returned after missing 6 months after tearing his Achilles tendon and needing surgery, and pinned Yoshiaki Fujiwara with a lariat in 9:04. Disappointing match and Choshu's comeback didn't draw nearly as much heat as expected. 10. Shina Hashimoto retained the IWGP title pinning Masachono in 28:00 after a running DDT. Mainly strong style mat work, which was good for those who liked UWF style, but at this late point in the show, the match went way too long, never opened up and bored a lot of people. 11. Tenryu pinned Inoki in 1556. Apparently the story behind the story was that Inoki wanted to win, but New Japan didn't want it to happen. So they created the angle 2 weeks before the match where Inoki and Tenryu couldn't agree on whether it would be martial arts, knockout or submission, but no pins, rules or pro wrestling rules. Both refused to sign the contract at that point, but a few days later it was announced it would be under pro wrestling rules. This match had the most heat of the card and they did all their spots fans were familiar with, so everything was over. They actually stalled for several minutes early. The key point was Inoki getting Tenryu in the sleeper but Tenryu getting to the ropes. Tenryu sold it big, acting as if he was asleep, but since he was under the ropes, the match couldn't end. All the war wrestlers at ringside kept screaming wake up, but Tenryu wouldn't move for 30 seconds. At that point, Choshu slapped him hard in the face and Tenryu woke up, which was a spot so Inoki could look like a winner. Tenryu came back to win the match with a power bomb. After the match they did another spot for Inoki to come out looking good. Tenryu said it was a great match and asked for a rematch on the next big show if Inoki's busy schedule allowed him the time to free for wrestling, but Inoki said he was so busy with things that are far more important than pro wrestling that he didn't think he'd have the time, so it was Inoki's way at the end of when he lost, making sure everyone knew that even though he had lost this match, that he had much more important things going on than pro wrestling matches, that he had graduated to more important things and thus losing this wasn't really that big a deal. Still, at the end, they tried to play this up big that Tenryu was the only wrestler in history ever to pin both Bob and Inoki. Stan Hansen had beaten them both, but Hansen's win over Inoki was via countout. A couple of corrections from last week's issue. First off, Hurricane Castillo Sr., who passed away in December, was not the El Olímpico that wrestled in the WWF in the 1970s. That El Olímpico was Joe Correa, who is still alive and living in South New Jersey and owns a bar in Philadelphia. I think the confusion may have arisen when Hurricane Castillo Jr. went to Japan a few years back and worked under the name El Olímpico Jr. also. The Kwang the Ninja that will be starting in the WWF definitely isn't the Tasmaniac. While not confirmed, I believe the person playing that role will be Juan Rivera out of Puerto Rico, who is better known as TNT. Also, in the ad for the Real Wrestling Hotline, there are two changes since the ad was put together, as Bonnie Blackstone replaces John Arezzo on Wednesday and Joe Pedicino replaces Dennis Brent on Saturday. The debut of the Wrestling Insiders radio show on the American Sports Radio Network was delayed 1 week, so the show actually debuts on Sunday, 1/9 from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 10 to 11 a.m. Pacific. We'll have a better idea next week on what stations will be carrying the show, as the network's lineup is more than 200 stations nationwide, although it is expected that closer to 1/3 of the network will actually carry the show. Myself and most likely Ric Flair will be the guests on the first show with host Mike Tenay. If you're a reader and can't get the show but have any questions regarding wrestling, you can still call in at 800-MY-RADIO. Results: 12 7th Bremen, Germany, CWA, David Taylor B. Hiroyoshi Yamamoto, Tony St. Clair B. Steve Casey, Miles Zerno and Ulf Herman B. Larry Cameron and Mad Bull Buster DQ, David Finney B. August Smile, CWA Middleweight Title, Franz Schumann B. Kurt Bayer. 12 8th Bremen, Germany, CWA, Eddie Steinblock B. Mad Bull Buster DQ, Rambo B. August Smile, Bruiser Mastino B. David Taylor, Larry Cameron D. Tony St. Clair, Steve Casey and Hiroyoshi Yamamoto B. Ulf Herman and Miles Zerno. 12 9th Bremen, Germany, CWA, Tony St. Clair B. Mad Bull Buster, August Smile B. Larry Cameron DQ, David Finley D. Franz Schumann, Bruiser Mastino B. Steve Casey DQ, David Taylor and Ulf Herman and Rambo B. Eddie Steinblock and Rip Morgan and Klaus Koroff. 12 10th Bremen, Germany, CWA, Ulf Herman B. Klaus Koroff, Franz Schumann B. Bruiser Mastino DQ, Chain Match, Mad Bull Buster B. Eddie Steinblock, David Finley B. Hiroyoshi Yamamoto, Larry Cameron and Steve Casey B. Miles Zerno and Tony St. Clair DQ. 12-11 Susanoo, All Japan Women, Kumiko Maekawa B. Chikako Shiratori, Kaoru Ito B. Tomoko Watanabe, Asia Kong and Bull Nakano B. Atsuko Mita and Suzuka Minami, Kyoko Inoue B. Mima Shimoda, Minami Toyota and Toshio Yamada B. Yumiko Hata and Saki Hasegawa 2028. 12-11 Bremen, Germany, CWA, Bruiser Mastino B. Miles Zerno, Tony St. Clair DDQ August Smile, Rambo B. David Finley DQ, Robert Fosser and Franz Schumann B. Larry Cameron and Mad Bull Buster DQ. 12-12 Dallas, Big D, 162, Ray Evans B. Chris Rocks, Carl Colton Mike Andrews B. Sandman and Bill Andrews, Bill Irwin Bullman Downs, Scott Braddock B. Jimmy James, Gary Young B. Mr. Terry Sims B. Tim Brooks, Cage Match, Promotion Ownership for Freddie Fargo vs. Fargo Leaving Town, El Brujo, Kit Carson, representing Fargo, B. Big D. 12th Sprayman, Germany, CWA, David Finley 1 Battle Royal, Mad Bull Buster B. August Smile Corps, Franz Schumann B. Tony St. Clair DQ, Bruiser Mastino B. Rambo, Robert Foster B. Rip Morgan, Ulf Herman and Miles Zerno B. Steve Casey and Finley DQ. 12-13 Bremen, Germany, CWA, Hiroyoshi Yamamoto B. Robert Foster, Mad Bull Buster D. Franz Schumann, Steve Casey B. David Finley DQ, Tony St. Clair No Decision Larry Cameron. This was the match where Cameron passed away. 12-14 Pachuca, Uwa, 2000, Aguila Solitaria and Trident B. Al Rudo and Mensajero de la Muerte, Principe Maya and Al Condorado Jr. B. Aguila Negro and Siniestro, Villano 3 and Tinieblas Sr. and Yamato, Kim Duke, B. Kinnick and Shuel Guerrero and Scorpio Jr., Uwa Welterweight title, Celestial B. Karloff Lagarde Jr., CMLL Middleweight title, Dandy B. Al Engendro. 12-14 Bremen, Germany, CWA, Miles Zerno B. Rip Morgan DQ, Robert Foster B. August Smile, Ulf Herman and David Taylor B. Hiroyoshi Yamamoto and Eddie Steinblock, Rambo B. Klaus Koroff, CWAIC title vs. British Commonwealth title, David Finley B. Tony St. Clair to become double champion. 12-15 Mesquite, Texas, North American Wrestling Federation, 85, Animal B. Raven, Death and Destruction B. Bobby and Mark Love, Mad Dog Billy B. Axel, Roughneck and Beast B. Pat K. Aloha and Ricky Long, John Moya NC Billy Johnson, Carl Colton Mike Andrews and Big D. B. Sandman and Chuck West and Billy Andrews. 12-15 Bremen, Germany, CWA, Ulf Herman B. Hiroyoshi Yamamoto, Steve Casey B. Eddie Steinblock, Rambo B. David Finley DQ, Franz Schumann and August Smile B. David Taylor and Robert Foster. 12-16 Tula City, AAA, Mike Rokanen and Supermoon Yukito B. Jurito Estrada and La Parquita, Misterioso and Volador B. Mayflowers and Andy Foss, Octagon and Elijo del Santo B. Fuerza Guerrera and Jerry Estrada. 12-16 Sprayman, Germany, CWA, August Smile B. Hiroyoshi Yamamoto, Klaus Koroff B. Ulf Herman DQ, David Finley B. Robert Foster, Tony St. Clair B. Steve Casey DQ, Rambo and Miles Zerno B. Eddie Steinblock and Rip Morgan. 12-17 Indianapolis, Championship Wrestling from Indiana, PC Austin B. The Lumberjack, Dan Childers B. in turn number 1, El Hijo del Diablo, not original obviously, B. Flash Flanagan, Eric Fontaine B. Mike Samples. Battle Royal ended with no decision. 12-17 Berwyn, Illinois, Windy City Wrestling, Steve Boz B. Trevor Blanchard, Christopher Daniels B. Mike Samson DQ, Mike Anthony B. Ken Erickson, Twin Turbos and Mike Anthony and Ronnie Vegas and Haystacks Ross B. Hawkeye Smith and Manson Brothers and Danny Dominion and Supermax, Anthony B. Ripper Manson. 12-18 Mexico City Pista Arena Revolucion, EMLL, Javier Roca and Angel de Plata B. Comodan and Astro Jr., Platino and Olympus B. Ponzonia and Buffalo Salvaje, Guerrero Maya and Guerrero del Futuro and Damian El Guerrero B. Chicago Express and Metallico and Talisman Jr., Panico and Popotecas and Felino B. Kung Fu and Pantera 2 and Blue Demon Jr., Bestia Salvaje and Negro Casas and Cadaver de Ultratumba B. Ultimo Dragon and Corazon de Leon and Cyclone Ramirez. 12-18 Chester, South Carolina, Carolina Championship Wrestling, 25, Chris Hamrick B. Eric Jet, Kevin Kirby B. Ring Warrior, Johnny B. Good B. Daryl Duggan DQ, Rebel Stud B. Kenny V. 12-18 Milwaukee, Mid-American Wrestling, 125, Great Yojo B. Mike Blattner, Wade Rivers B. Russian Assassin and Brewtown Bad Boy, Frank James DDQ Texas Hangman, Jawbreaker Jones B. Illinois State Trooper, Frankie DeFalco and Cesar Pabon B. Love Brothers. 12-19 Arena Coliseo in Mexico City, EMLL, Cynthia Moreno and Lady Apache B. Maria del Angel and Tanya, Mestizo and Olympico and Gran Apache I. B. Ray Barbaro and Babe Richard and Buffalo Salvaje, Moger and Espectro Jr. and Tornado Negro I. B. La Sombra and Pantera 2 and Americo Rocca, Corazon de Leon and Ultimo Dragon and Blue Demon Jr. B. Gran Marcus Jr. and Dr. Wagner Jr. and Negro Casas TQ. 12-19 West Allis, Wisconsin, Mid-American Wrestling, 300 Sellout, Great Yojo B. Jesse Johnson, Farmer Vic B. Brewtown Bad Boy, Frank James B. Mike Blatnick, Jawbreaker Jones B. Russian Assassin, Frankie DeFalco and Texas Hangman B. Dr. X and Spymaster, Love Brothers B. Wave Riders. 12:21 Arena Coliseo in Mexico City, EMLL, prelim results unavailable, Cyclone Ramirez and Pantera 2 and La Sombra de Felino and Spectra Jr. and Gladiator Jr., Mocho Cota and Pierre Oth Jr. and Dr. Wagner Jr. B. La Fiera and Dandy and Ultimo Dragon DQ. 12:21 Rockwall, Texas, UWA, 47, Billy Johnson B. Roughneck, Jimmy Flair B. Bam Bam Richardson, Mad Madeline B. Tasha Simone Love, Jimmy James B. Bullman Downs, Action Jackson B. Rod Price DQ. 12:23 Tokyo Korakuen Hall, 1 Staring, 600, Ryo Miyake B. Kazuhiko Matsuzaki, Masahiko Takasugi B. The King, Mascara Magica B. The 1 Staringer, Shinichi Nakano B. Fukumetaro, Geto and Jado and Hido B. Shoji Nakamaki and Nobutaka Arai and Masayoshi Motegi. 12:23 Chattanooga, American Wrestling Federation / Paul Lee Promoter, 250, Steve Armstrong B. Black Terminator, Dirty White Boy B. Arachnaman, Scott Armstrong, Brian Lee B. Tracy Smothers, The Bullet B. Dutch Mantell, Ricky Morton B. Paul Lee. 12:23 Winnipeg, River City Wrestling, Caveman Broda B. Crybaby Levinsky DQ, Vince Nevada B. Outpatient, Emerald Dragon B. Bobby D. DQ, Robbie Royce and Dakota Moondog B. Steve Stryker and Dr. Demento, Sluggo Smith and Jason the Terrible B. Sergeant Steele and Major Impact DQ. 12:24 Tokyo Korakuen Hall, LLPW, 1350, Mitsuki Endo B. Leo Kitamura, Yashakuruna and Carol Midori B. Otaku Hozumi and Rumi Kazama, Shinobu Kandori B. Miki Handa, Eagle Sawai and Harley Saito B. Nori Tadano and Mikiko Futagami. 12:25 Corsicana, Texas, North American Wrestling Association, 30, Pro Mac D. Bigfoot, Billy Steele B. Ricky Long, Lady KB, Jimmy James B. Kit Carson DQ, Tim Brooks and Bullman Downs BBA Dalton and Tony Dalton, James 1 Battle Royal. 12:26 Kitchener, ONT, WWF, 2100, Owen Hart B. Atom Bomb, Smoking Guns B. Black Knight and Red Knight, Steve Lombardi and Barry Horowitz, Shawn Michaels B. 123 Kid, WWF title, The Undertaker B. Yokozuna DQ, IC title, Razor Ramon B. IRS, WWF tag title, Rick and Scott Steiner B. Quebecers Corps, Randy Savage B. Crush. 12:26 Philadelphia, ECW, 800 Sellout, Chad Austin B. Pitbull Spike, Mike Awesome, The Gladiator and FMW, B. Randy Starr, ECW tag title, Kevin Sullivan and Tasmaniac B. JT Smith and Tommy Cairo, Shane Douglas B. Tommy Dreamer, Mr. Hughes B. Sandman, Rocking Rebel B. Downey Allen, ECW title, Terry Funk B. Sabu to win title, Pat Tanaka B. Rocco Rock, Ted Petty, Lights Out Battle Royal ended with no decision. 12:26 Dallas, Big D, 171, Mike Andrews B. Mad Dog Billy, Wild Thing and Pat K. Aloha B. Sandman and Beast, Mad Madeline B. Tasha Simone Love, Carl Colt B. Nick Golden, Tim Brooks B. Bigfoot, Jimmy James B. Scott Braddock, Big D and Chris Rocks and Jimmy James B. L. Brujo and Bullman Downs and Ray Evans. 12:26 Cordell, Georgia, Peach State Wrestling, 322, Rodney Cowan B. Dale Lucas, Ricky Morton B. Paul Golden DQ, Stephen Scott Armstrong B. Glenn Gilbernetti and The Nightmare, Ted Allen, Robert Gibson and Ted Oates B. R.D. Swain and Scott Armstrong, Coal Miners Glove Match, Tommy Rich B. Mike Golden, Loser Leaves Town I Quit Match, Dennis Gale B. Steve Lawler. 12:27 Pittsburgh, WWF, 5800, 123 Kid B. Johnny Polo, Diesel B. Bob Backlund, IRS B. Marty Jannetty, WWF Tag Title, Rick and Scott Steiner B. Quebecers DQ, 2 of 3 Falls Count Anywhere, Crush B. Randy Savage, Doink the Clown, Ray Apollo, B. Bam Bam Bigelow, Lex Luger and Tatanka B. Yokozuna and Ludwig Borga 2449. 12:27 Memphis, Aswa, 1300, Reggie B. Fine B. Del Rios, Jeff Gaylord B. Vampire Warrior, David Heath, DQ, Lauren Davenport B. Sweet Georgia Brown, Killer Kyle B. Ken Wayne, Aswa title, Brian Christopher B. Buddy Landell DQ, Aswa tag title, Chris Michaels and Todd Morton B. PG-13, Eddie and Doug Gilbert B. Christopher and Jerry Lawler DQ, Kyle 1-2 Ring Battle Royal. 12:27 Greenville, South Carolina, Blackstar Promotions, 510, Johnny Dollar B. Rick Michaels, Mr. Jam B. Ricky Starr, J.W. Steele B. T.C. Carter, Ivan Koloff B. Steve Carlton, Jimmy Valiant B. The Assassin, obviously not Jody Hamilton, DQ, Max Miller B. Randy Mulkey, Greg Valentine and Masked Undertaker B. Rock Roland and Billy Starr. 1227 Tyler Texas, GWF, 90, Alex Porto D. Chaz Taylor, Plowboy Wilbur B. John Hawk, Black Bart B. Mike Davis, Rod Price B. Chris Adams, Davis 1 Battle Royal. 1228 Chicago, WWF, 7600, Owen Hart B. Bastion Booger 1 1/2 star, Bam Bam Bigelow B. Doink the Clown 1 3/4 stars, Smoking Guns B. Head Shrinkers 3 1/4 stars, WWF Tag Title, Rick and Scott Steiner B. Quebecers DQ 2 1/4 stars, Lex Luger B. Ludwig Borga DQ 1 star, 2/3 Falls Count Anywhere, Crush B. Randy Savage 2 stars, Cage Match, Bret Hart B. Shawn Michaels 3 3/4 stars. 1228 Canton, Ohio, WWF, 3400, Men on Mission B. Black Knight and Red Knight, Jeff Jarrett B. 123 Kid, Bob Backlund B. Mike Sharp, Marty Jannetty B. Brooklyn Brawler, Tatanka B. Atom Bomb, WWF Title, The Undertaker B. Yokozuna DQ. 1228 Winston-Salem, WCW, 850, Arnold Anderson B. Paul Roma 1/2 1 star, Rick Steamboat B. Brian Knobbs 1 star, Sting and Hawk B. Rick Rude and Shanghai Pierce 1 1/4 stars, Steve Austin B. Brian Pillman 2 1/2 stars, U.S. Title, Dustin Rhodes B. Paul Orndorff 2 1/4 stars, Non-Title, Ric Flair B. Steve Regal 2 3/4 stars, Rhodes 1 Battle Royal. 1228 Palm Bay, Florida, Enville Promotions, 263, Odessa Slim B. Cliff Anderson, Nuclear Assassin B. Al Hardiman, Lou Perez and Rico Morales B. Phi Delta Slam DQ, Lenny Poffo B. Johnny West, Jim Neidhart Ker Davey Boy Smith. 1228 Rockwell, TX, Uwa, 51, Ray Evans B. Big D DQ, Country Dog D. Jimmy Flair, Mad Madeline B. Lady K, Chris Rocks B. Igor Smirnoff, Bam Bam Richardson, Bullman Downs B. Jimmy James, Action Jackson B. John Hawk DQ. 1229 Fort Wayne, Indiana, WWF, 2900, Bam Bam Bigelow B. Doink the Clown 2 1/2 stars, 2 of 3 Falls Count Anywhere, Crush B. Randy Savage 2 stars, Smoking Guns B. Head Shrinkers 3 1/2 stars, Lex Luger B. Ludwig Borga 1/2 1 star, Owen Hart B. Bastion Booger Dud, WWF Tag Title, Rick and Scott Steiner B. Quebecers DQ 3 stars, Cage Match, Bret Hart B. Shawn Michaels 3 stars. 1229 Raleigh, WCW, 900, Rick Steamboat D. Ron Simmons, Shockmaster B. Tex Slashinger, Steve Austin B. Brian Pillman, WCW TV Title, Dustin Rhodes B. Steve Regal, Regal retains because title was only up for 10 o'clock, Arnold Anderson B. Shanghai Pierce, Sting B. Brian Knobbs, Hawk 1 Battle Royal. 1229 Dade City, Florida, Enville Promotions, 500, Odessa Slim B. Cliff Anderson, Black Hearts B. Rico Morales and Lou Perez, Al Hardiman B. Lanny Poffo, Brian Blair B. Cuban Assassin, Jim Neidhart N.C. Davey Boy Smith. 1230 Cincinnati, WWF, 3500, Owen Hart B. Bastion Booger, Head Shrinkers B. Smoking Guns, 2 of 3 Falls Count Anywhere, Crush B. Randy Savage, Lex Luger B. Ludwig Borga, Doink the Clown B. Bam Bam Bigelow, WWF Tag Title, Rick and Scott Steiner B. Quebecers DQ, Cage Match, Bret Hart B. Shawn Michaels. 1230 Johnstown, Pennsylvania, WWF, 2500, Jeff Jarrett B. 123 Kid, Bob Backlund B. Mike Sharp, Marty Jannetty B. Brooklyn Brawler, IC Title Ladder Match, Razor Ramon B. IRS, Tatanka B. Atom Bomb Corps, Men on Mission B. Red and Black Knight, WWF Title, The Undertaker B. Yokozuna DQ. 1230 Nashville, Aswa, 275, Reggie B. Fine B. Del Rios, Dutch Mantel B. Vampire Warrior, Killer Kyle B. Ken Wayne, Buddy Landell B. Jeff Gaillard, Aswa Tag Title, Todd Morton and Chris Michaels B. PG-13 DQ, Eddie and Doug Gilbert B. Jerry Lawler and Brian Christopher DQ, Landell 1-2 Ring Battle Royal. 1230 Newport Richey, Florida, Enville Promotions, 400, Odessa Slim B. Steve Green, Al Hardiman B. Nuclear Assassin, Black Hearts B. Rico Morales and Cuban Top Gun, David Cannell, Brian Blair B. Lanny Poffo, Warlord and Cuban Assassin B. Jim Neidhart and Davey Boy Smith. 1-1 Auburn Hills, Michigan, WWF, 3500, 123 Kid B. Bastion Booger 3/4 1 star, WWF Tag Title, Rick and Scott Steiner b Quebecers DQ 2 and 1/4 stars, 2 of 3 falls count anywhere, Crush b Randy Savage Core 2 stars, IC Title, Razor Ramon b Shawn Michaels Core 1 and 1/2 star, Head Shrinkers b Smoking Guns 2.5 stars, Doink the Clown b Bam Bam Bigelow Dud, Lex Luger and Tatanka b Yokozuna and Ludwig Borga 1/2 1 star. 1-1 Portland Oregon, Kvusa, Dane Rush d Buddy Wayne, Silver Shadow and Carl Pope b Minnesota Maulers, Colonel De Beers d Bruiser Bryan, Larry Oliver b Jesse Barr, Lou Andrews b C.W. Bergstrom. 1-1 Belmont North Carolina, PWF, 57, Tyrone Knox and Emilio Alicia b Super Ninjas 1 and 2, American GI b Russian Assassin, 2 Hot Thomas b Texas Outlaw, Scott Powers b Black Scorpion, George South and Terry Austin b Star Rider and Italian Stallion, Austin Steele b Hillbilly, Outlaw 1 Battle Royal. Half Tokyo Korakuen Hall, All Japan, 2100 Sellout, Mark and Chris Youngblood b Tamon Honda and Mighty Inoue, Johnny Ace b Brian Costello, Richard Slinger b Misao Inoue, Giant Baba and Rusher Kimura and Mitsuo Momota b Haruka Eigen and Ryuma Izumata and Masafuchi 2355, Akira Tao and Takawa Mori b Abdullah the Butcher and Giant Kimala 2, Toshiaki Kawada and Yoshinari Ogawa b Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton, Mitsuharu Misawa and Kenta Kobashi and Junaki Yama b Stan Hansen and John Knorr and Johnny Gunn, Hansen 1 Battle Royal. Half Tokyo Korakuen Hall, 1 Staring, 2100 Sellout, Kazuhiko Matsuzaki b Ryoma Ake, Masayoshi Motegi b Mascara Magica, Mugen b Fukumetaro, Nobutaka Raya b Hido, Deathmatch, Crypt Keeper, Jose Estrada Jr., and Freddy Krueger, not Doug Gilbert, b Jason the Terrible, Roberto Rodriguez, and Shoji Nakamaki, WWC Junior Title, Shinichi Nakano b the 1 Staringer, 1 Staring Tag Title, Headhunters b Gedo and Jado. Half Dallas Sportatorium, GWF, 1,080/virtually all paper, Alex Porto d John Armstrong, Moda b Ricky Robb, Scott Putski b Kendo Nagasaki DQ, Gladiator b Black Bart, non-title, John Hawk b Chris Adams, Deathmatch, Action Jackson b Rod Price DQ. Half Dallas, Big D, 79, Bullman Downs d Nick Golden, Chris Rocks and Wild Thing and Mike Andrews b Ray Evans and Sandman and Mad Dog Billy, Terry Sims b Tim Brooks DQ, Chain Match, Jimmy James b Scott Braddock, Death Match, Big D b Al Brujo. Half Alpharetta Georgia, North Georgia TV Taping, 200, Sean Wild b Medieval Man, Punisher, Ray Lloyd, b Hoghead Croy, Hillbilly Festus b Boladu DQ, Sam McGraw b Mark Thorne, The Sheik, obviously not original, b Eric Gladden, Nasty Critters b Texas Hangman, Bod Squad, Glenn Gilbernetti and Ashley Clark, b Chris Blade and Thorne, Steve Pritchard b Brian Armstrong, Nightmare, Ted Allen, b Panama Jack, Pritchard b Brett Dillon, Wild b Punisher, New Jack b Ricky Frady, Blade and Thorne b Medieval Man and Panama Jack, Nasty Critters b Boladu and Isaac Bundy DQ, Steve and Scott and Brian Armstrong b Ron Starr and Pritchard and McGraw. Half Studio City California, Slammers, Sparky Carter b Richie Dagger, Dynamite d b Jeff Lindbergh, Umbrado Oro b Malicious Mike. 1/3 Gainesville, Georgia, WCW Main Event Taping, 800/ Paid, Non-Squash Results, Tex Slashinger and Shanghai Pierce b Keith and Kent Cole, Max Payne and Cactus Jack b Harlem Heat DQ, Dallas Page b Tom Zenk, Jack and Payne b Harlem Heat, Rick Rude and Steve Austin b Dustin Rhodes and Brian Pillman, WCW Tag Title, Nasty Boys b 2 Cold Scorpio and Marcus Bagwell, Paul Orndorff and Paul Roma b Eric Watts and Rhodes, Ric Flair b Steve Regal. 1/3 Tokyo Korakuen Hall, All Japan, 2100 Sellout, Mighty Inoue b Misao Inoue, Richard Slinger and Yoshinari Ogawa b Johnny Gunn and Brian Costello, Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton b Chris and Mark Youngblood, Ryuma Izumida b Satoru Asako, Giant Baba and Rusher Kimura b Haruka Eigen and Masafuchi, Johnny Ace b Tamon Honda, Asako 1 Junior Heavyweight Battle Royal, Stan Hansen and John Norby Abdullah the Butcher and Giant Kimala 2, Mitsuharu Misawa and Kenta Kobashi and Junaki Yama b Toshiaki Kawada and Akira Tao and Takawa Mori 2401. 1/3 Tokyo Korakuen Hall, All Japan Women, 2200 Sellout, Chikako Shiratori b Tamata, Kaoru Ito b Numaki, Japanese Title, Mima Shimoda b Tomoko Watanabe, Etsuko Mita b Suzuka Minami, Kyoko Inoue beat Saki Hasegawa, Bull Nakano beat Manami Toyota, Toshio Yamada beat Akako Inoue, non-title, Yumiko Hata beat Asia Kong. Japanese television rundown. 11-14 All Japan Women, 1. Eagle Sawai and Yashikura Nai of LLPW upset Bull Nakano and Suzuka Minami in 13:08 when Sawai pinned Minami with a power bomb. The LLPW team didn't show much. 2 stars, 2. Yumiko Hata and Takako Inoue beat Toshio Yamada and Kyoko Inoue in 1940 when Hata pinned Yamada with a power bomb. All-action excellent match with all the great near falls at the end, several of which looked to be the finish. 4 stars, 3. Akira Hokuto and Manami Toyota beat Asia Kong and Saki Hasegawa in 23:02. Finish was great as Kong was standing on the top rope with Hokuto over her back and shoulders and went to deliver a Northern Lights superplex, but Hokuto turned around the move in midair into a sunset flip. Typical fast-paced excellent match you'd expect from these women with tons of near falls at the end. 4 1/4 stars. 11-21 All Japan, Toshiaki Kawada and Akira Tao beat Dan Crawford and Doug Furness in 14:23 when Tao pinned Crawford with the Nadawa, Golden Arm Bomber aka Choke Slam. Kawada's knee was blown out early in the tour so he wasn't working as top level, but they used the injury as a great heat-getting device since the Kanams worked it over early. This was a solid match with the pace picking up in the final minutes. The biggest pops were when Tao kicked out of a double hot shot and when Crawford kicked out of a power bomb. 3 1/4 stars, 2. Stan Hansen and Giant Baba beat the Patriot and the Eagle when Hansen whipped Eagle into a Baba foot to their face. Hansen lariated Eagle for the pin. Everything Baba did got a great reaction, although it's not like any of it looked good. 1 3/4 stars, 3. Steve Williams and Big Bubba and Richard Slinger beat Mitsuharu Misawa and Kenta Kobashi and Jun Akiyama. Typical great All Japan main event. Slinger was given the chance to do a lot of offense and looked good. Williams pretty well carried things for his size, including doing the backdrop driver, back suplex dropping the guy almost on his head, on Akiyama. Coming off the singles match with Kobashi in August, the move is over like crazy but it also looks awfully dangerous. Williams pinned Akiyama after a second backdrop driver. 3 3/4 stars. 11-27 JWP, 1. Mima Shimoda of All Japan pinned Boyershoi Kid in 13:55 with a tiger suplex. Boyershoi does a few acrobatic moves but her size and timing makes it extremely difficult to have a match with her. She was missing moves left and right. Shimoda did an impressive double arm superplex while standing on the top rope. 1/4 1 star, 2. Hokuto pinned Mayumi Ozaki in 1826 with the Northern Lights bomb. This match was a disappointment because Hokuto copped an attitude and wouldn't sell much for Ozaki, so it came off like a lengthy one-sided match. They did some nice moves in the second half of the match but the timing was never just right. Even with all that, it was still a good match. 3 stars, 3. Dynamite Kansai pinned Kyoko Inoue in 2046 after a Splash Mountain, Razor's Edge. Kyoko didn't seem to want to be in this match as she just wasn't her enthusiastic self. These two singles matches, if anything, showed just how good Toyota and Yamada are because they make Kansai and Ozaki look like two of the greatest workers around. But against Hokuto and Kyoko, their limitations were apparent. 3 1/4 stars. 11-28 All Japan, 1. Dan Spivey and Johnny Ace beat Tracy Smothers and Slinger when Spivey pinned Slinger after a stuff power bomb. Only the last minute aired. Slinger was in the entire time and looked good, but the match had no heat. 2. Misawa and Kobashi beat Williams and Bubba in 1950. An incredible match. All action, great near falls at the end and excellent heat. Bubba, because of his unique style and the fact he works so hard and has gotten used to the style, makes a good new main eventer for the group. The biggest pop was when Williams did the backdrop driver on Kobashi and Kobashi kicked out. Williams and Bubba did a double Oklahoma Stampede on Misawa but Kobashi saved him. Bubba did the Bossman Slam on Misawa but Kobashi saved again. Misawa got the facelock on Bubba while Kobashi had Williams in a sleeper but Williams finally broke free and saved Bubba in what looked to be a sure finish. After several more near falls, Kobashi knocked Williams out of the ring and did a plancha dive on him while Misawa pinned Bubba with a German suplex. 4 1/2 stars, 3. Baba and Hansen drew Tao and Kawada over 30-00. With Kawada injured, Tao worked most of the way taking punishment. The crowd was really into it at the end when Kawada was working stiff with Baba and the crowd got into Baba as a sympathetic character getting destroyed by his younger foe. Match was very entertaining because of the psychology and how it built. 3 1/2 stars. 12 fourths New Japan, 1. Jushin Liger pinned Black Tiger, Eddie Guerrero, in 13:30 to retain the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title. In some ways this was excellent because of all the great moves by Tiger. But the match didn't have much heat in the first half because they'd alternate mat work that got no reaction with pretty high spots. When fans think of Black Tiger, they think of a roughhouse fast-paced heel style developed by Mark Rocco, original Black Tiger in New Japan 1982-89, so Guerrero doing almost a babyface style didn't fit. The last 5 o'clock saw one excellent move after another and it got heated. Tiger actually looked better than Liger in this match. At one point he did the Goria special, a backbreaker type move that his father popularized, and did a great spinning DDT off the middle rope. Liger got the pin when he was standing on the top rope and it looked like he was going to do a backward superplex, but instead in midair he flipped Tiger all the way over so he landed on his face. Immediately after the pin, Masashi Aoyagi hit the ring and attacked Liger with the title belt. 4 stars, 2. Tatsumi Fujinami made Michioshi Ohara submit in 3:42 with the Dragon Sleeper. The skinheads and New Japan wrestlers got into a big brawl before the match and Hiroshi Hayes undid the padding from the turnbuckles in one corner and Fujinami kept ramming Ohara into it and he bled heavily. After the match, skinheads and New Japan kept brawling. Very heated good short match. 2.5 stars, 3. Tatsutoshi Goto and Kengo Kimura beat Shina Hashimoto and Masachono in 10:50. This picked up from the brawl that ended the previous match. This was a terrible main event for any promotion, but even worse considering New Japan standards. Goto got the big upset pinning Chono with a back suplex since they for some reason are giving him the mega push. Everyone brawled again after the match was over. 3/4 1 star, 4. Super Strong Machine pinned Hiro Saito in their grudge match in 10:32 with a headbutt off the top rope. Machine had his mask ripped open early. They worked stiff, but there was little heat for what was supposed to be a big grudge match. After the match, Norio Oniga hit the ring and attacked Machine, but Machine made his own comeback and gave him a headbutt off the top rope and left him laying. This card had a lot of American-style booking with hardcore heels and all the post-match run-ins, but the matches themselves still had clean finishes. Because of the quality of workers that the skinheads are, pushing them as strong heels comes at the expense of wrestling action, so except when everyone was brawling, the heat wasn't there even with strong heels. 1.75 stars. 12 fifths All Japan, 1. Williams and Bubba beat Ace and Spivey in 1500 hours when Williams pinned Spivey with a Dr. Bomb, gut-wrench into a powerbomb move that Terry Taylor developed. Match was better than it sounds on paper because of how much Williams has improved. It was also better because Ace worked most of the match for his team. 3.25 stars, 2. Kawada and Tao beat Akiyama and Tamon Honda. Honda is a rookie who represented Japan as a super heavyweight in the past 3 Olympic Games. He's really green as a pro, but the crowd was into him strong as an inexperienced underdog getting destroyed by Kawada. Kawada finally made him submit to the stretch plum. Only the finish aired, but it had great heat. 3. Baba and Hansen went to a 30-0 draw with Misawa and Kobashi. All 4 worked to the best of their ability and they went 30-0 without any wrist holds. Many people have raved about this match because of how over Baba was and how hard he worked. 4 stars. 12/12 All Japan Women, 1. Kurenai and Miki Hand of LLPW beat Saki Hasegawa and Kaoru Ito to win the Japanese tag title in 15:23, of which 11 o'clock aired. This and the 12:22 television show were taped from the 12/6 Sumo Hall show. Very good all action. Highlight was a spot where Hasegawa and Ito alternated double arm suplexes and Ito's foot stomp, where she jumps up and lands with both feet on foe's stomach and chest. Finish saw a combination German suplex and chokeslam on Hasegawa and Handa pinned her. 3.5 stars, 2. Nakano and Atsuko Mita and Shimoda beat JWP's Hikari Fukuoka and Plum Mariko and Cutie Suzuki in 20:36 when Shimoda pinned Fukuoka with a tiger suplex. 3.5 stars, 3. Asia Khan kept her WWWA World title beating Megumi Kudo of FMW in 22:34. Match was edited down to 9 o'clock for television. I saw a handheld complete version and it was excellent, but television edited a lot of good spots and drama away because Kong sold bigger than you'd think for Kudo to turn her into a credible challenger. They did a US spot where the ref took a bump and Kudo did a Frankensteiner off the top rope on Khan, but no ref was there to count the pin. The last time I remember that spot in Japan was in 1981 when Lord Blair's refereed a Ric Flair title defense against Jumbo Tsuruta, although it probably has been done, but certainly not overdone. Kong also went for a Northern Lights superplex, but Kudo turned it into a sunset flip for a big pop. Kong finally got the pin. 3½ stars, for TV version. 12/12 All Japan, 1. Hansen and Baba beat Slinger and Smothers in 5:35 when Hansen pinned Smothers after a lariat. 1½ star, 2. Misawa and Kobashi beat Patriot and Eagle, Del Wilkes and Jackie Fulton. Although these matches look mundane on paper, they are excellent to watch. Patriot did his full Nelson drop finisher on Kobashi but missed a shoulder block off the top. Patriot and Eagle are getting more and more cohesive as a team, doing double team moves like a spot where Patriot held Misawa up in a vertical suplex and Eagle came off the top with a crossbody, the old rocker suplex. Finish saw Eagle have Misawa up for the superplex, but Kobashi came in and stuck his head under Eagle's legs and picked him up on his shoulders. Misawa came off with a forearm, then got a submission with a facelock. 3¾ stars, 3. Kawada and Tao beat Williams and Bubba in 2300 hours. This was, at least until the finals, the best match of the tournament. Williams and Bubba worked on Kawada's knee early, but Kawada made a comeback going after Williams' knee. Tao finally made the hot tag, but was cut off and Williams got near falls on him with a Northern Lights suplex and a power slam. Crowd heat was great when Tao kicked out of both moves. Williams went for the stampede on Tao, but as he was running, Kawada clipped his knee. Kawada made the hot tag and did a power bomb on Williams but Bubba saved, then a stretch plum but Bubba saved again. Williams came back and went for the stampede, but Kawada cradled him. Kawada then kicked out from the Dr. Bomb. Bubba tagged in and continued the onslaught until Kawada hit an Enzuigiri out of nowhere and tagged to Tao. Tao got a near fall with a DDT, but Bubba stopped him and gave him the Bossman Slam and a splash off the middle rope for near falls. As he went on the top rope, Tao got up and gave him a superplex. Bubba did another Bossman Slam for Kawada made the save. Tao made a comeback doing an Ottawa off the ropes for a near fall, a second Ottawa which got a huge reaction as Bubba kicked out, and finally got the pin after a third Ottawa. 4½ stars. 12/18 New Japan, 1. Jurassic Powers, Scott Norton and Hercules Fernandez, kept the IWGP Tag Titles beating Nasty Boys in 12:53 in a battle of World Tag Team Champions. Norton is working with a bad right shoulder and arm and was taped up, so he had to do almost everything left-handed and sold everything to the right side great, which made the match. Fans got really into it and it was a lot better match than it sounds on paper. Hercules is even bigger than he was in the WWF. It's actually ridiculous. He does work a lot harder and better than he has in the past 6 years, but that's still nothing to rave about. Norton finally pinned Sags with a clothesline off the top rope. 3 stars, 2. Liger made Aoyagi submit in 6:30 with a half crab. A nothing match. Since Aoyagi does a karate gimmick, they did no flying and worked it like a mixed match. 1½ star, 3. Fujinami beat Kimura with a sleeper and pin in 9:56. Last few minutes aired and it was fine. 2¾ stars, 4. Hashimoto pinned Keiji Muto, wrestling as Muto, not as Great Muta, which makes a huge difference, in 28:57 to retain the IWGP title. The first part of the match was a combination of mat work back and forth and Hashimoto unloading with stiff kicks to the chest and back. Hashimoto's mouth was split open at one point. The match picked up and turned into a very good world title match. Hashimoto did a German suplex that Muto kicked out of. Muto did a Frankensteiner off the top rope for a near fall and a German suplex for another near fall, then hit the moonsault but Hashimoto kicked out again. Hashimoto, who is overweight, was really getting tired at the end since they went so long. Finish saw Muto miss a moonsault and Hashimoto did a brainbuster and running DDT for the pin. 3¾ stars. 12/18 JWP, 1. Boy Urshoi beat All Japan's Chikako Shiratori with a crooked head scissors submission in 16:54, reversing a Shiratori Fujiwara armbar. As usual, Boy Urshoi missed all kinds of spots. Shiratori was fundamentally very good but didn't show any special moves. They had to go to the finish twice because they messed up execution the first time. The last few minutes were very good but Boy Urshoi's execution wasn't there. 1½ star, 2. Candy Akutsu pinned Fusei Onoki in 11:32 with a cradle. 1¼ stars, 3. Devil Masami beat Ozaki in 21:25. This was a Devil super heel match, which means Masami does the Undertaker gimmick. Most of the first 12 o'clock were spent getting the gimmick over with monster spots and Masami stalking Ozaki. Highlight was Masami chasing Ozaki like a stalking monster with a big stick but Ozaki moving fast enough to get out of the way from most of the blows. As Masami was doing the slow stalk, Ozaki disappeared and went to the top row of the bleachers. Masami couldn't find her and then saw her, and went up to the bleachers with the stick chasing fans everywhere. Finally Masami caught up with Ozaki and press slammed her, walked down the bleachers while holding her overhead, walked to ringside and around the ring holding her overhead before dropping her on the ringside table. She then destroyed the ring announcer who took a guardrail whip. In the second half, Ozaki hit a lot of suplexes before Masami won holding a sleeper on for a long period of time and Ozaki was just out. Ozaki laid there motionless doing a great job of selling being out, until Masami poured water all over her face to wake her up. 2 3/4 stars, 4. Mariko and Suzuki beat Kansai and Fukuoka in 1755 when Mariko pinned Fukuoka with a Frankensteiner off the top rope. Very good match. Fukuoka was the highlight, looking great here. 3 1/2 stars. 12/22 All Japan Women, 1. Kyoko and Takako Inoue and Hata beat Sawai and Harley Saito and Rumi Kazama of LLPW. Kyoko did a 30-rep giant swing on Saito. Sawai played powerhouse and got lots of nearfalls on Kyoko. Kyoko pinned Saito with a Thunder Fire powerbomb. 3 1/4 stars, 2. Toyota and Yamada regained the WWWA World Tag Team titles from Kansai and Ozaki. The match went 25-33, but was edited to 1500 hours for television. Most of the big spots aired but the editing took it from a 5-star down to 4 3/4 stars. This wasn't as good as the 2 previous matches the teams have had, but they were both 2/3 falls and went in excess of 30-0 and were worked a lot stiffer with more high-risk moves and were 2 of the best matches ever. If not judged against the standard of the previous matches, this was a match of the year candidate for next year. Because of all the injuries, you can see everyone toning down on the insanity. At Dream Slam it seemed like every wrestler on the show had to do at least one tope, and with 40+ wrestlers, that's a lot of overkill. Plus in the top matches, they did all kinds of stiff kicks to the face which was somewhat toned down here. A few were done, but it wasn't like all 4 ended the match with all kinds of bruises on their face as in the first meeting in November, 1992. Ozaki did an acrobatic tope, and Toyota did the Orihara moonsault from the top turnbuckle to the floor. Finish saw Toyota do the Japanese Ocean Cyclone suplex on Ozaki, but Kansai made the save. Toyota then knocked Kansai out of the ring, went to the top rope with Kansai very far from the corner and looked as if she was going to do a Sando dive, but instead did a dropkick. She then got in the ring and did another suplex on Ozaki for the pin. 3. Shinobu Kandori pinned Hokuto. This time they edited a 21-15 match down to 9 o'clock. Again, this wasn't as good as their Dream Slam match, but it was brutal. Basically the two kept punching each other in the face. Nearly every punch looked like a potato, so either these two are the greatest workers ever, or there were potatoes being thrown left and right. Hokuto is one of the greatest workers but Kandori hardly falls into that category. Hokuto just took it. In fact, she took one early punch flush in the mouth and her mouth was busted up big time. It was really sick. All the blood from her mouth was dripping so big that the back of her hair turned red. At the end the two kept trading stiff punches until Kandori got the pin, a similar finish except with Kandori winning, from their first match. On television this came off as really dramatic because women from both promotions were at ringside cheering their teammate on. Toward the end, with Hokuto taking all those potato shots to the face, Mita and Shimoda at ringside started crying almost hysterically and wanting to run in, but Kong kept holding them back. By the end, even Kong was crying, which is really freaky to see someone with the Beast gimmick crying, which made this a tremendously dramatic finish. After the match they interviewed both and Kandori had a big bruise by her cheekbone, but Hokuto's face was puffy everywhere with small cuts all over like a boxer. 4 stars, based on television version because of all the drama, but can't rate it higher because the massive editing took out so much, but it would probably be a lot better when the home video comes out. UWA/EMLL? Largely a slow week as it traditionally is at the end of the year. Super Luchas magazine came out with year-end awards. Conan vs. Cien Caras was given an award for drawing the biggest gate of the year. Elijo Anibal, UWA, named Rookie of the Year. Latin Lover, AAA, was Newcomer of the Year. Los Hermanos Dinamita, Cien Caras and Mascara Año 2000 and Universo 2000, were Trio of the Year. Silver King and El Texano were Tag Team of the Year. Cien Caras was Rudo, Heel, of the Year. Perro Aguayo was Técnico, Face, of the Year, and Atlantis was named Wrestler of the Year, with Cien Caras second, Aguayo third and Dandy fourth. Boxy Lucha gave out awards as well this week, although didn't limit it to one in each category. Names as Rookies of the Year were Juventud Guerrera and Torero of AAA, La Sombra and Tornado Negro I, who I know has been wrestling for years around Baja California before debuting this past year in Mexico City, of EMLL and Títere and El Hijo de Nibalavua. Mini, Midget, of the Year were Espectrito of AAA and Dorito of EMLL, No Mascarita Sagrado or Octagonchito. Revelation of the Year were Heavy Metal of AAA, Cacho Mendoza and Mocho Cota of EMLL and Rocky Santana of UWA. Heel of the Year were Metal of AAA, Negro Casas of EMLL and Scorpio Jr. of UWA. Foreigner of the Year was Corazon de Leon of EMLL. Women Heel of the Year were Practicante and La Diabolica of EMLL. Women Technico were Lola Gonzalez and Martha Villalobos of AAA and Lady Apache and Cynthia Moreno of EMLL. Tag Team of the Year were Conan and Pero and Santo and Octagon of AAA and Guerrero de la Muerte and Arcangel de la Muerte and Mestizo and Gran Apache I of EMLL. Trio of the Year were the Destructors of AAA, Guerrero Stel Futuro of EMLL and Scorpio Jr. and El Engendro and Shuel Guerrero of UWA. Technico of the Year were Santo and Lizmark and special awards were given to Conan, Santo, Oro and Vicky Aguilera, the 90-year-old fan who is at ringside at all the EMLL matches in Mexico City. Dr. Lucha's awards were Atlantis as Best Technico, Negro Casas as Best Rudo, Love Machine as Best Foreigner, Heavy Metal as Best Revelation, Juventud Guerrera as Best Rookie, Lady Apache as Women's Technico, Louisiana Diabolica as Women's Rudo, Silver King and Texano as Tag Team, Los Brazos as Trio, and Atlantis as Wrestler of the Year. EMLL is trying to talk Plata, the older brother of Oro, out of retirement in 1994. All Japan. They open the new year with shows on January 2nd and 1/3 at Korakuen Hall. John Berserker Noor is getting a chance to work on top as Stan Hansen's tag team partner. Terry Gordy returns on January 16 after being out of action for 6 months after collapsing on an airplane and being in a coma for more than 1 week to reform his tag team with Steve Williams. Big Bubba did so well during the tag tournament that unless Gordy is 100%, fans will clamor for a Williams and Bubba team instead. They are doing a round-robin tournament for the Asunaro Trophy this month with the finals on January 29, with Jun Akiyama, Satoru Asako, Tamon Honda, Masao Inoue, Ryuma Izumida, Richard Slinger, and Takao Mori. Because of how much heat the Baba and Hansen matches got during the tag team tournament, Baba put himself back into several main events this month facing either Kawada's team or Masawa's team for the same matchups that drew so much heat last tour. Upcoming major shows this tour are 1/8 in Hiroshima with Misawa and Kobashi and Asako vs Kawada and Tao and Ogawa, Baba and Hansen vs Abdullah and Kimala and Johnny Gunn vs Akiyama. 1/9 in Hakata has Baba and Hansen and Fuchi vs Misawa and Kobashi and Akiyama. 1/16 at Korakuen Hall has Misawa and Kobashi and Honda, first main event ever for Honda, versus Kawada and Tao and Ogawa, Hansen and Gunn vs Williams and Gordy and Youngbloods vs Fantastics. 1/26 in Osaka has Kawada and Tao vs Misawa and Akiyama, Hansen and Nor and Gunn vs Gordy and Williams and Slinger and Kobashi vs Fuchi. 1/28 at Korakuen Hall has Hansen and Nor vs Misawa and Kobashi and Baba and Kawada and Tao vs Gordy and Williams and Slinger. Series ends 1/29 at Korakuen Hall with Baba and Misawa and Kobashi vs Tao and Kawada and Fuchi, Hansen and Nor vs Williams and Gordy in the Asunaro Trophy final. Other Japan news. While FMW hardly has the best wrestling matches or wrestling talent, and their big show main events are borderline insane, there is no wrestling company in the world that does a better job of producing home videos of their big shows. The videos of the Onita Funk and Onita Pogo shows, because of the production and Onita's flair for the dramatic, come off as amazing spectacles, even though the explosions and the like make it sick spectacles. Hey, it's still in a lot better taste than that Howard Stern pay-per-view, not to mention far more entertaining. Akira Hokuto was at the All Japan Women's Season Opener on January 3 at Korakuen Hall, and announced she would be wrestling 3 more matches. Originally she was going to retire on the 3/27 show at Yokohama Arena, but for obvious reasons, announced she'd work that show, 8/24 at Budokan Hall and have her retirement match on November 20 when All Japan Women have the Tokyo Dome booked. On the debut show, Yumiko Hata pinned Asia Kong in a non-title match to set up a match for Kong's WWWA title on January 24. One Staring drew a sellout to Korakuen on January 2 as well and is building toward a 1/14 Jason the Terrible vs Crypt Keeper Snakebox Bed of Nails match. For the record, the broken neck they are claiming Mitsuharu Matsunaga suffered in the match against Tatsushi Onita was a work. Matsunaga is undergoing major knee surgery, but they are saying it's a broken neck for effective getting over the match. Koji Kill's promotion, simply called Kill, which debuts 121 at Korakuen Hall, will be a shoot-style promotion. Added to the list of foreigners on the first show will be Pete Tagello, not real name, who works as Tasmaniac in the US. Aswa. Jerry Lawler was in the media this week predicting a dropping of all charges against him on January 7 and that he'd be back in the WWF in February. The best explanation for the rise in attendance to 1,300 on December 27. Previous week was 1,100, but that was with a Lawler vs. Jeff Jarrett main event, is simply the weekend after Christmas. The finale was a two-ring battle royal which came down to Killer Kyle, who debuted that night, and Brian Christopher. Kyle won when Buddy Landel interfered. After the match, Kyle, Landel and Eddie and Doug Gilbert beat up on Christopher, and when Lawler ran in for the save, they beat on him and left him laying. This was to set up the 1/3 main event with Kyle and Landel and Gilbert's facing Lawler and Christopher in Rock and Roll Express. On TV promoting the show, they aired a Rock and Roll Express music video that was done in early 1984. Earlier on the 12/27 card, when Landel challenged Christopher for the Aswa title, Christopher put a foreign object in Landel's trunks and told the referee, who checked, found it and DQ'd Landel. Mike Anthony is said to be injured by the Bruise Brothers, although actually he hasn't come back from going home for Christmas. When he returns, it looks like he and Jeff Gaylord will be programmed against the Bruise Brothers, who are in full-time at least until mid-February. Tony Adams also hasn't returned. West Virginia indie wrestlers Scotty McKeever and Mad Dog worked as jobbers on television this past week. Also on December 27, Sweet Georgia Brown faced Lauren Davenport, babyface, with Burt Prentice, babyface, as referee. Heel manager Lee Womack interfered and KO'd Davenport, but Prentice refused to count the pin to set up mixed matches this week. Complete 1/3 show is Reggie B. Fine vs. Tony Williams, Jeff Gaylord and Del Rios vs. the Bruise Brothers, Chris Michaels and Todd Morton, Far Too Wild, defending the tag titles against PG-13, Christopher defending a SWAT title against Landel, Lawler defending unified title against Eddie Gilbert and the 8-man tag. SMW. No house shows this past weekend, and most of the January house shows will be uneventful since they are only running 10 shows during the month, mainly small town stuff. The next major show will be Sunday, Bloody Sunday on February 13 in Knoxville, with the Bullet vs. TBA in a match where either Bullet unmasks and reveals his identity if he loses, and if it's Bob Armstrong he's history, or if TBA loses, then Bob Armstrong can return and be SMW commissioner. Brian Lee vs. Dirty White Boy in a chain match, Heavenly Bodies in a lights-out match against Mike and Doug Furness with a football helmet on a pole, Bodies also defending the SMW tag titles against Rock and Roll Express, Moondogs vs. Bruise Brothers in a cage match, Tracy Smothers vs. Chris Condito, and more. Next TV taping is 1/10 in Chilhowie, Virginia. Louis Spicolli will be coming in, although this is largely to do publicity work for his tag team with Chris Condito and Bobby Blaze with Tammy Fitch on the IWC shows in the United States, so he's just in for television. Tim Horner is out of action, with the story being he injured his neck against Prince Karas. Horner on his interview wearing a neck brace brought up the legit neck injury he'd suffered a few years back while working in WCW. In reality, Horner's wife just gave birth and he's taking a few months off the road. It's been a hat trick for that in recent weeks for SMW wrestlers, as Ron Harris, Bruise Brothers, and Larry Booker, Moondog Spot, have also had new babies. On the SMW year-end television show that aired this weekend, in the credits at the end of the show they listed physician in attendance at ringside at SMW matches as Dr. Kevorkian, and listed the person in charge of the SMW Daycare Center as Michael Jackson. Cornette defended the Murdoch Bullet finish on Christmas night in Knoxville in the Cornette's Hair vs. Bullet unmasking match. Bullet lost after being hit with a chain and unmasked, revealing a second mask rather than his identity. Cornette said because it left the fans happy because Armstrong foiled Cornette, he didn't think people would take it as being screwed. He did recognize that other promotions have run fans off by ignoring advertised stipulations and emphasized SMW isn't going to fall into that category. It's pretty well a sure bet that the 213 either or stipulation match will not end with neither. Dick Murdoch's interviews were hilarious leading up to the Bullet match. He did one in a bar drinking course, saying he'd work for Smoky Mountain Wrestling, which he kept calling Rocky Mountain Wrestling, because they are an honest on the up-and-up promotion unlike the rest of the wrestling promotions that are all under federal indictment. He did another interview sitting out in front of his house in the snow without a shirt on. Here and there. The 12/13 issue of Sports Illustrated had an article in Bart Vale, Pro Wrestling Fujiwara Gumi, which would be the first article on a pro wrestler in that magazine since they did a feature on Koji Kyo. The article, called Shoot Fightin' Man, may have only run regionally in southeastern editions, but was loaded with inaccuracies. The most prominent one was right in the lead where they talked about Hulk Hogan and Randy Savage being involved in staged matches but that Vail's matches are anything but staged. It also billed Vail as the current world heavyweight champion in the Japanese sport of shoot fighting and gave the impression he was a celebrity in Japan and considered the first non-Japanese to be one of the top 3 in the world in shoot fighting, all of which are a major stretch. Technically, PWFG created a PWFG championship for Vail so he could promote their shows using an American on top in the United States, and he did 2 shows in the Miami area, but he's hardly thought of in Japan in a world heavyweight champ and as shoot fighting groups go. PWFG is almost non-existent, only running every few months at Korakuen Hall, and stylistically, its matches look less like shoots than any of the other 3, Pancrase, U, W, F, I and rings, groups that supposedly fall under that heading. Not only was the article written as if that group and his matches were 100% legit, it was the focal point of the article. Hulk Hogan and Ric Flair were all over the latest Gold's Gym newsletter, as at the recent convention Hogan was a co-recipient of the Mr. G Humanitarian Award and Flair received the 1993 Celebrity Appreciation Award. Despite the frequent mentions of Hogan on WCW broadcasts, that's just a gimmick come on for Gene Okerlund to get people to call the 900 number. At this point if Hogan were to return to wrestling in this country, it would be on his own. If that would be the case, it isn't going to happen soon because something like that requires tons of groundwork before starting. There are no signs he has even started the groundwork and in this business that is very difficult to keep under wraps, nor will he have the time to do so for the next few months due to his television filming schedule. The 1230 San Francisco Chronicle had an article on former University of Santa Clara basketball star Ron Race training with John Studd for pro wrestling. Race, who is a legit 7'2", which by pro wrestling standards is closer to 7'6" or 7'8" if 6'10". Andre can spend a career at 7'4" and 7'6" and a half. Jorge Gonzalez can be 8'0", and they say has bulked up to 370. He played basketball at 275, will be called the Vanilla Gorilla and he and Studd will be a team. Unlike Giant Gonzalez, Race was a good enough basketball player to be an all-conference center in college, although that was 100 pounds ago, but not good enough for the NBA. He played in Europe after graduating college, but then decided to give pro wrestling a shot. He's been a long-time hardcore WWF fan going back to high school, if not earlier, and the idea of him going into pro wrestling was the subject of numerous articles and speculation out here when he was in college, and I know WWF has been aware of him since his sophomore year. Since he's training right now in Boston with Killer Kowalski, expect their first matches to be on Kowalski shows in New England. Studd is now almost 46 and while he was never what you'd call a decent wrestler even in his prime, he was downright awful on his last WWF tour and nearly crippled by bad knees, and that was 4 years ago. Any former wrestlers, promoters, referees and their spouses that worked in the Gulf Coast area are invited to the Gulf Coast Wrestlers Reunion on March 4th and 3/5 in Irvington, Alabama. For more info, call 904-479-3917. This reunion is not open to fans. J.C. Dykes, well known in the 60s and 70s as the manager of the Masked Infernos in the Southeast, passed away back on November 20th in Cleveland, Tennessee. Dykes, 67, started managing the Infernos in 1964, then comprised of Rocky Smith and Frankie Kane, who became better known in the early 70s as the Great Mephisto doing a Chic knockoff. The team worked the Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Texas and Carolina circuits along with touring Japan. Dykes remained in wrestling until around 1976 when he left the business, despondent when friends Frank Hester, Pepe Lopez and Sam Bass were killed in an auto accident, although I believe he made 1 or 2 very brief returns. I believe former wrestler Spaceman Frank Hickey also passed away. Hickey was a famous jobber from the 50s through early 70s, also known as Bozo Brown and numerous other names. He even worked a few shows this past year in Memphis but was clearly in very poor health. Championship Wrestling from Indiana did its first television taping on December 23, taping 4 30-minute programs that will air in Indianapolis on CH53 on Thursday nights and Friday afternoons starting 1:20. Starting this week, most of the house shows are being moved from Thursday to Friday, although there will be weeks that is the exception. Some notes on the 12/26 ECW show in Philadelphia. Terry Funk's win over Sabu was for the ECW title, but not the TV title, which Sabu also holds. Mike Awesome, Gladiator and FMW, debuted on the show. Don't have any confirmation, but apparently they'll be doing a television taping sometime this week and another major show toward the end of the month. Wrestlers have been told of a tentative First World Wrestling Network, WWN, taping at the Manhattan Center in New York, where Monday Night Raw originally emanated from, on either 122 or 124, although word we get is nothing will be finalized until late this week. Because Friday night was New Year's Eve, Global moved its show to Sunday, head-to-head with Big D for the first time, and along with the free tickets also gave one soft drink free. About 1,080 showed up for GWF, but it killed Big D, which drew just 79 fans for a match with El Brujo vs Big D in which either Freddie Fargo or Big D would be rode around the ring like a donkey with a saddle on them depending upon who lost. Rip Rogers is in the John Mellencamp music video entitled Human Wheels doing bodybuilding poses. Indie Blackstar Promotions drew 510 fans in Greenville, South Carolina on December 27 for a show called Wrestling Reunion 93 billing Greg Valentine, Ivan Koloff, Jimmy Valiant, Paul Jones and Ray Candy in newspaper ads and Wahoo McDaniel and Tim Woods in other local advertising. The first three were there, the last four weren't, however Randy Mulkey, who at one time was the most popular jobber in the country and whose name I haven't seen in years, worked on the undercard. Got a chance to see several weeks' worth of Puerto Rico tapes for the first time in a few years. This is actually about 2 months behind, so this is a little dated. Work rate has never been the greatest there, but the quality of the wrestling is way down from a few years back. The heel side consists of guys like Fidel Sierra, Florida's Cuban Assassin, Muhammad Hussein, Lou Fabiano, as a tag team with Manager Fantasy, Tahitian Warrior, Lloyd Anoya, and Sika as a tag team, manager/wrestler Rico Suave, who doesn't wrestle very well but has a great delivery on interviews. Don't know for sure if he's a great interview, but he comes across as such, because he talks so fast in Spanish I can't make out if what he says is as great as his delivery. Ricky Santana, who is easily the best worker of the group, and Doug Masters, who looks facially like Tully Blanchard with bleached blonde hair, as an underneath guy. Tahitian Warrior has improved a lot over the past year and shows potential to be a good wrestler. Although how many Samoans doing the same gimmick can you have in the United States, which somewhat limits him in this country? They also bring in as top heels for weekends the likes of Greg Valentine, as Universal Champion, Etki Malumba, Ben Peacock aka Giant Kimala 2 from All Japan, Warlord, 20 pounds lighter and a lot less cut than in his WWF days, but still huge judged against everyone else, or Mr. Hughes to face Invader #1 on top, who the promotion is built around since Carlitos Colon is retired. Invader looks really old these days, kind of like Cien Caras. El Bronco #1 and Ray Gonzalez are the top face team. A guy named Pool Garcia is doing the naive fat rookie in overalls like a shorter, fatter hillbilly Jim. John Savage, a Crockett jobber from many years ago, works underneath doing a barbarian-type character although much smaller. Others underneath are Alale, doing a policeman gimmick, Sargento Rios, who, no exaggeration, makes Van Hammer look like Bret Hart, and El Profe, the key face manager, who does the interviews for most of the voices and translates those who speak English, feuding with Suave. Davey Boy Smith and Jim Neidhart, who worked against each other on Neidhart's first few cards billed as Anvil Promotions, after their 12/29 match were attacked by Warlord, which turned Neidhart face as Smith's partner, so set up future Neidhart vs. Warlord matches in Florida in late January. Roddy Piper has his photo in a recent issue of People magazine, which was doing a story on health spas. Told Piper looked extremely muscular in the photo. IIWC. No major news out of Mexico since there aren't any shows until the weekend, and Antonio Pena is in Japan negotiating with FMW in New Japan. They've been airing old cards on television, and on New Year's Day on Galavision they aired a best of show which included a few EMLL matches, including a Great Ultimo Dragon vs Negro Casas title match. On the Sunday show they aired a 1-month-old match from Aguas Calientes with Jake Roberts and Love Machine and Blue Panther vs Conan and Mascara Sagrada and Pero Aguayo, where Aguayo juiced like crazy and Cien Caras and Mascara Año 2000 did a run-in. But instead of attacking the faces, they attacked Panther. This comes 1 week after they aired Los Angeles, where Caras saved Panther when Conan and Pero were beating on him. You could say it's unpredictable, and you can also say it doesn't make any sense. Octagon and Santo did have a hot tag title defense beating La Parca and El Satanico. The belts were referred to on television at different times as the NWA World Tag Team titles and the IWC World Tag Team titles, but a close-up of the belts clearly said, Pacific Northwest Tag Team Championships. AAA has the following U.S. dates over the next few months in the United States. On February 19 they'll be at Chicago Stadium, home of the Bulls and Blackhawks, with Aguayo and Sagrada and Conan vs. Jake Roberts and Fishman and La Parka managed by Sherry Martel, Octagon and Santo defending the tag team titles against Machine and Eddie Guerrero, Heavy Metal and Rey Mysterio Jr. and Solar vs. Panther and Psicosis and Fuerza Guerrera and Winners and Angel Azteca and Latin Lover vs. Los Payasos, the Three Clowns. The New York debut will be 2/21, which is a Monday afternoon, although it's Washington's birthday so I guess school will be out and many people will be off work, at the Paramount with Conan and Mascarada Sagrada and Aguayo vs. Jake and Espectrito and Panther with Sherry in a mixed match. I think both Ray Charles and Ronnie Millsap can see Mascarada getting beaten up by Jake well ahead of time out of this. Also Octagon and Mascara Sagrada and Santo vs. Fuerza and Fishman and Parka, Metal and Mysterio Jr. and Latin Lover vs. Psicosis and Machine and Guerrero and Solar and Azteca and Winners vs. Payasos. I don't know about this Monday afternoon idea. There will also be two American-style matches on both shows including the trio called the Suicide Blondes of Chris Condito, Bobby Blaze and Luis Piccoli managed by Tammy Fitch. Although AAA did a lot better than I expected both times in San Jose, and better the first time in Los Angeles and roughly the same the second time, I've got strong negative vibes going into these shows. In Chicago, and even more particularly, New York, I think they need strong singles main events. In Chicago, and more in New York, people have that big city mentality that if they aren't getting the blow-away show that is being catered especially for them, then they don't need to attend. These shows on paper look like the matches themselves should be good, at least some of them, but it is totally unproven whether there is any audience for AAA in either city, let alone one substantial enough in the case of Chicago to draw respectably in a 17,000-seat arena. Roll the dice. Other dates look to be 3/11 at the 18,000-seat America West Building in Phoenix, 3/12 at the Los Angeles Sports Arena and 3/13 at the 16,000-seat Oakland Coliseum Arena. I do know that Mexican musical acts have drawn respectably in Oakland. The success probably depends more on how many cable systems in the area carry Galavision. Los Angeles has been a success, but it is the one city in the United States that has a history of drawing big crowds when using the big names from Mexico on top, even when it was an English-based promotion. In the past, 50s to early 70s, there were cities in southern Texas that had similar success but it never was the case in New York or Chicago. WCW. Both Ric Flair and Vader came out of the 12/27 match the worse for wear. Vader, to the best of my knowledge, hasn't wrestled since that match, although he went to all the cities and did interviews. He had his eye totally shut, apparently during the point where Flair banged him twice with a chair, then had him laying on the apron and was throwing punches to his face and I guess Vader wanted Flair to really lay them in. He also suffered a toe injury when his toe hit first when he did the moonsault. Flair worked the next night in Winston-Salem, even though he was banged up, but on December 28 in Raleigh he was at the show but simply came out as a second for Arnold Anderson. Anderson's first match back was 12/28 in Winston-Salem against Paul Roma. There are no noticeable stab wounds, but as would be expected, he didn't appear to be in his best shape after being out of the ring for 2 months. By the way, the stuff in Flair's house at the beginning of the pay-per-view was shot a few weeks before the pay-per-view, although the post-match stuff was live, which is why he had 3 kids at the beginning of the show and 4 kids at the end. The 12/25 edition of World Championship Wrestling, broadcast from Gene Uckerland's cabin in Minnesota, drew a 1.0 rating, which is the lowest rated Saturday or Sunday afternoon show in the 21-year history of pro wrestling on CH-17. Obviously this rating is an aberration, but to blame it on less people watching television because of Christmas, which has been the excuse given, is making an excuse that doesn't hold water. If that was the case, the show would have drawn the usual 5 share, but instead the share was 2.4. Blaming it on football competition is equally invalid because over 21 years, there have been so many Saturday and Sunday shows that have drawn strong ratings bucking NFL playoffs and baseball playoffs, Super Bowls and World Series, that a simple 49ers-Oilers game can hardly to blame for doing that much damage. It's too bad because Ric Flair did one of the greatest interviews of his career on that show and almost nobody saw it. Anyway, they should scrap that cabin idea for next winter. Also that weekend, Main Event did a 1.6 and Power Hour did a 1.5. Even with that, overall ratings as a trend are up about 10% from the last year. WCW Main Event shows for 1/9, 1/16 and 1/23 were taped on January 3 in Gainesville, Georgia. On the 1/9 show, Tony Schiavone does an interview with the Assassin, Paul Roma, and Paul Orndorff, and Marcus Bagwell, Two Cold Scorpio and Teddy Long come out and they all brawl to set up future TV and Clash matches. Dallas Page comes out and has an impromptu brawl with Tom Zenk, who returned to television after being largely invisible for months, and has lost noticeable weight. Later Zenk challenges Page to a match. The 1/16th show has another interview with Page in the fishbowl and Zenk puts his name in the bowl and tells the Diamond Doll that his phone number is on the back. Super Shockmaster, Fred Ottman, debuted with a Vader-like ring outfit and wearing a mask, which may have been the original idea for his gimmick before he fell through the wall and they tried to make him a comedy figure. After the match he challenged Vader, which shows this company is really headed in a positive direction. Payne and Jack beat Harlem Heat via DQ to set up a rematch, and Johnny B. Bad talks again about his new tag team with Michael Hayes, which isn't long for this world. The 123 show saw Nasty Boys beat Brian Armstrong and Pez Whatley, and after the match, Missy Hyatt whipped Whatley with her whip. Page pinned Zenk in a dead match after all that build-up, and after the match, Page challenged Flair, and Jack and Payne beat Heat. WCW Saturday night shows will be taped 1/10 and 1/11 at Center Stage. Sting was on MTV on December 30th as a judge for a lip-syncing contest. Ric Flair was at the Sugar Bowl on the University of Florida sidelines and got a huge reaction from the crowd, and lots of the players wanted to have their photos taken with him. Ted Turner mentioned pro wrestling just about the first time in public media in a recent article in Sporting News. The mag named Turner the most important man in professional sports and talked about all his various sports ownings including WCW. The reason probably was because the interview took place just a few hours before Turner's meeting with the WCW employees, so he had it on his mind. The article pretty well dissed Turner's involvement in wrestling, making fun of the fact that a guy who knows and regularly talks with all these world leaders will also talk with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and Awesome Kong. I can see the point with Awesome Kong. Chris Cruz and Larry Zbyszko are now doing the Power Hour, which usually contains one match from the past, 88-89ish. The bad part of these old matches is that the wrestlers look so much younger. Generally the matches are tons better than almost anything going on now, and the crowd is so much more into it. It almost serves as a reminder of how bad things have gotten. There is apparently a major feud going on with Gene Okerlund and Jesse Ventura with Jim Ross. Okerlund made some sarcastic remarks about Ross on the hotline, although nothing serious, but Ventura has gone a lot deeper on television, including this past weekend on Worldwide, asking about whatever happened to the Fat Okie, and that made a remark about him broadcasting shows that have midgets dressed up as clowns. Like Ventura has never broadcasted on a show that had a midget dressed up like a shark trying to blow up a boat. Ross on his WWF radio show called Ventura overrated and made comments about Dusty Rhodes' weight, which was equally ironic. Cactus Jack and wife are parents of a baby girl named Noelle as of 3 weeks ago. It's the couple's second child. A big play is going to be made to get Curt Hennig now that the budget has been freed up by Davey Boy Smith being gone. WCW has a very different story about his leaving than the one printed in the Observer, but officially nobody is allowed to comment on it. Technically Smith was never fired, they claim he just never showed up for his dates. At the house shows they were doing battle royals for supposed $50,000 and $100,000, which turned into a total expose since so many of the guys were just clowning around, and with that kind of money at stake, that makes no sense. House show crowds were the same after Starrcade as before, so the traditional post-Christmas crowd increases didn't affect this company, and some of the B shows in Alabama were doing about 200 per night. Okerlund has also come under much criticism for on Saturday plugging the 900 line, saying he had comments from Lou Thesz, the Great Hulk Hogan, Terry Funk, Dory Funk, Jack Briscoe, etc. on the Flair Vader match when he reportedly hadn't even talked to at least a few of those he mentioned, and then on the hotline simply said that to a man they all agreed it was the greatest world heavyweight title match ever. WWF. Of course Lex Luger will be announced this coming weekend as being in the Royal Rumble along with Genichiro Tenryu and Great Kabuki. New word is that King of the Ring pay-per-view in July will be from Baltimore, rather than Philadelphia as we originally reported. Despite it being announced for weeks that Royal Rumble in Providence is sold out, as of press time 1/4 there were still plenty of tickets available according to the box office at the Civic Center. I think announcing the sellout live as a way to attempt to hype interest in the show as a pay-per-view is now simply company policy, as they've done it numerous times now on shows that weren't sold out. Most of the post-Christmas week shows did average or slightly above average, with the best one I've heard being 12/28 in Chicago, which drew 7,600 and nearly $120,000 with Shawn Michaels vs. Bret Hart in a cage, Crush Savage, Luger Borga and Steiner's Quebecers as the headliners, which may be the biggest gate in Chicago for wrestling since Hogan vs. Flair in November of 1991 did $135,000. In November, Titan Sports sent out a casting call for both men and women in Hollywood for martial arts performers with the claim they were looking at producing live shows. Don't know if they're looking for martial arts gimmick guys to face wrestlers a la New Japan's successful formula, although martial arts are much bigger in Japan than this country, or looking at producing a martial arts television show or even a martial arts promotion. Monday Night Raw on December 27 drew a 2.9 rating, which went head-to-head with Starrcade in most of the country. Actually, the number of homes that ordered Starrcade at most could have meant 0.1 or 0.2 difference in the ratings, so it was barely a factor. All American did a 1.9 on December 26. I believe as of this weekend, the entire Rumble card will have been announced and that there will only be 4 undercard matches plus Rumble, which pretty well guarantees the matches will all have length to them. With Bret and Owen Hart both in the tag and the Rumble, it sets up speculation that they'll win the titles, then break up later in the show, because if they break up during the tag title match and then make contact for anything more than a brief period in the Rumble, it kills the initial meeting being hyped elsewhere. Adrian Street was quoted in Wrestling Locker Room News as saying he's been offered a position as a heel manager but doesn't have a starting date. The Reader's Pages. Darren Wise of P.O. Box 414, Windsor, Pennsylvania 17366 is going to run several wrestling shows in Pennsylvania area over the next few months and workers in the area can send videos and resumes to him. Paul MacArthur at 315-478-8052 is looking for a Coca-Cola can with Don Shula's face on it. Jeff Cohen of 50 Shelley Lane, Great Neck, New York 10023 has the Howard Stern pay-per-view and wrestling videos for trade. Larry Payne of 113S Fremont Avenue, Manteca, California 95336 is looking for audio tapes of WWF theme music for Ultimate Warrior, Kerry Von Erich, and Shawn Michaels. Ken Variate of 505 Gower Avenue, Houma, Louisiana 70364 is interested in a tape of the 1120 Powerhouse Wrestling Federation card in Gore, Georgia. Kevin McKenzie of 58 Cassandra BL. Number 2, Don Mills, ONTMEA 1S6 has copies of the TV tapings for Teen Pro Wrestling and handheld tapes of Teen Pro shows. Send us ACE for more info. Tim Larson of 220 E Main Street, Waconia, Minnesota 55387 is looking for a tape of the 522 Springfield, Vermont show. Bill Pentecost of 187 Plaza Drive, Middletown, Connecticut 06457 is looking for tapes of Antonio Inoki vs. Bruiser Brody, September 16, 1985, Bruiser Brody and Jimmy Snuka vs. Funks, December 12, 1981, Dynamite Kid vs. The Cobra, July 5, 1984, Stan Hansen and Brody vs. Funks, December 13, 1982, Hansen and Terry Gordy vs. Funks, August 31, 1983, Tiger Mask vs. Kid, September 2, 1982, August 5, 1982, August 23, 1983, any Japanese matches of Kid, Owen Hart, Satoru Sayama, and Jushin Liger, 1979-84 Georgia Championship Wrestling, 1983 Memphis, 1984 Mid-South and 1983 Mid-Atlantic. Angela Short of 1027 to 3Q Street, Sacramento, California 95814 would like to buy audio tapes of Bret Hart radio appearances. Eric Bale of P.O. Box 1492, Santa Maria, California 93456 will send a copy of his newsletter Wrestling Manager to anyone who sends us ACE. George Mayfield of 193 Fernbank No. 6, Springfield, Massachusetts 01129 has a set of videotapes from his personal tour of Japan in January 1994 called My Japan Diary. Send us ACE for more info. Ed Rossino of 2742 S. 11th Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania 19148 is looking for a tape of Howard Stern's appearance of Rockline on December 16 and Tonight Show on December 17. He'll trade a copy of Stern's Crucified by the FCC tape. J.P. Milner of 11 Lowland CL, Astral Way, Sutton, Hull, Humberside HU74YT England is looking for a tape of the Ultimate Fighting Championship and anything on the Beach Boys. Stuart Dinkus of 13913 Dressler Avenue, Garfield Heights, Ohio 44125 has tapes from the 60s through 80s. Luis Marrero of 1718 McClellan Street, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania 19145 is looking for information on how to subscribe to Weekly Pro, Weekly Fight, Gong, Super Luchas, and Fight Weekly. Thorsten Sackman of Ender Koppel 5, 21,220 Seavital is looking for a tape of Triple Mania. Jeff Sharkey Event 2841 Highway 45, Hortonville, Wisconsin 54944 is looking for a tape of the movie The Wrestler with Ed Asner and Vern Gagne. He also has a mailing list for Nuage Wrestling, so anyone in the Wisconsin area looking for information on live shows ahead of time sent to him to get on the mailing list. Wrestlers, managers, announcers, referees, etc. that would like to send a resume, promotional photo, video with at least 2 matches and interviews can send them to Nuage Wrestling at 224 East 16th Street, Kakawa, Wisconsin 54130. Starrcade. There was only one thing wrong with the Flair-Vader match. It was produced by WCW. Though the opening montage and cut-ins throughout the show were welcome touches missing from previous shows, other aspects were lacking. Tony Schiavone and Jesse Ventura didn't call the match, they chatted about it. Ventura tried his usual unfunny lines and acted disinterested, just unprepared, while Schiavone did little for the drama of the match, the irony of Harley Race at ringside, the history involved. One longed for Jim Ross to give what surely would have been the performance of his career. The direction and camera work were disgusting, with a 2-minute uninterrupted floor camera shot that belonged in an amateur home movie, and the obvious inability of the director to find or call the proper shot if his life depended on it. One longed for the WWF production team. Michael Buffer's ring introductions made it obvious he has never heard of any of these people before and is reading his lines to collect a payoff. One longed for Lance Russell to give one of his classic, dramatic intros from the glory years of Memphis. But all that longing was a small price to pay to see, for one match, the glory return to the old Charlotte Coliseum, the glory of the wrestling business of long ago, a time when one man brought more fans to the arena in one night than now go to all the matches in the country in a week. That man was Ric Flair, and the sport he thrived on, and that thrived because of him and those like him, returned from the dead for one match. Ric Flair gave the kind of performance that is never seen today, a performance that draws money. Ric Flair brought back the fans' memories of the times when the best night of their month was spent at the wrestling matches, when their heroes and villains were people they believed in instead of laughed about. Ric Flair showed the young wrestlers of today that it's not what you do, it's when and how. Ric Flair showed why 100 wrestlers of today do things that look more real and more spectacular, but all of them combined haven't drawn the money he has. Flair resisted the temptations to shine at the beginning of the match, cut his comebacks short, and solid his ass off to make Vader the monster that he should be. Ric Flair went to the ring working for a company that has misused him, abused him, embarrassed him, tried numerous times to retire him, told him his best days were behind him and attempted to constantly replace him at least a dozen times in the past 5 years. He gave that company one of the greatest performances of his career. No doubt he reveled in the knowledge that despite everyone's efforts to replace him, on this night he proved that actually doing it was impossible. Flair's post-match interview was the only genuinely moving moment I've ever seen on a pro wrestling television show. It was impossible not to share in Flair's emotion, so obviously sincere you knew how much this sport has meant to him and how much pride he is in what he's accomplished. You knew at once, as well, that he and everyone now knows just how much he's meant to this sport. Everyone around him was just playing their roles. But on December 27, 1993, for Ric Flair, and for all the wrestling fans in the world watching who understand, it was real life. He proved for all time that diamonds are forever, and so is Ric Flair. Jim Cornette. Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Here was a case where one match makes a card. The Ric Flair-Vader match was nothing short of excellent. If WCW put anywhere near the amount of thought into other matches on this and other cards as they did this one, they'd be over everywhere. You can really only point to little things to make it a better match. Worst match was Shockmaster vs. King Kong, but at least it was short. Most of the other matches could have been better and there were no surprises. Howard Schultz. Niles, Illinois. Thumbs down. This was a pretty lackluster show. I bought it because of the promise of a good match between Flair and Vader, but it wasn't either guy's best effort and had an extremely weak finish. It was interesting to see Flair's family and the photo montage at the start was priceless. But the one thing that struck me after the main event was how very old Flair looked backstage. I think Flair's the all-time greatest, but he would have more impact in a reduced role. No show booked by Dusty would be complete without a bad screwjob finish. We got a world-class one in the tag title match. It was ridiculous for Tony Schiavone and Jesse Ventura to try and tell us what a great match we'd just seen when they could barely be heard above the boos. Dave Lane. Dallas, Texas. Thumbs up. It probably should have been called Flaircade. Everyone knew this was going to be a one-match show, and boy did the one match deliver. When the show opened with pictures from Flair's childhood and the sad music, it made my eyes mist up. The scenes contrasting Flair and Vader's arrival to the building was awesome. I was in awe. I've waited for years for a company to do a build-up for a big match like WCW did here. It was better than anything the WWF has ever attempted. The match itself was 4 stars, but the whole production was worth 10 stars. The post-match was even better than the pre-match. Flair's interview in the dressing room with his family was incredible. The smiles between Flair